All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We are back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mindful Mentality podcast. I know you guys just saw us a couple hours ago, but man, today is just full of a lot of deep stories. So I really hope you guys are really tuned into these two episodes that we're doing today. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. As you guys know, I'm feeling good. Daniel's feeling good. Will's feeling good. So let's hop right into it, boys. Daniel, what do we got for the people?
All right, for you guys that are tuning in at the Mindful Mentality podcast, our goal is to help 1,000 people improve their mindset by challenging their paradigm to break generational patterns. This podcast is to encourage and help everyone live a truly prosperous lifestyle and to show you have the power to write your own story. If you find any value throughout the show, please help us get this message to other people looking to improve their mentality by sharing this. Man.
Woo, man. Last episode, I almost shed a few tears. I don't know if that'll be the same or a little bit more this time. But Daniel, who do we got today, man? Just break it down for us.
So today we have Motivational Check with Terry Tucker. Terry, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking to you tonight. I'll do the condensed version here. So you can't tell this from looking at me, but I'm 6'8" tall. Grew up in Chicago on the South Side. I'm the oldest of three boys. I have a brother who's 6'7" that was a pitcher for the University of Notre Dame. And I have another brother who's 6'6" who was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the National Basketball Association. And then my dad was 6'5". So I sort of joked that if you sat behind our family growing up in church, there wasn't a prayer's chance you're going to see anything that was going on in front of you. When I graduated from college, I moved home to find a job. I'm really going to date myself now, but this was long before the internet was available. I was all set to make my mark on the world with my newly obtained business administration degree. And I look back now and kind of what a knucklehead I was to think I knew anything about business just because I had a degree. Fortunately, I was able to find that first job in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain. Unfortunately, I lived with my parents for the next 3.5 years as I helped my mom care for my father and my grandmother, who were both dying of different forms of cancer. In terms of my professional career, as mentioned, I was in marketing at Wendy's. I was a hospital administrator. Then I did a major pivot in my life and became a police officer. Was an undercover narcotics investigator. I was a SWAT team hostage negotiator. Started my own school security consulting business. Been a motivational speaker. Published my first book in 2020. But I guess really for the last 10 years, I've been battling this rare form of cancer. And then finally, I'll round it out with my wife and I have been married for 28 years. We have one child, a daughter, who's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and is an officer in the new branch of the military, the Space Force.
Wow. Jeez. Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. Holy cow. So obviously we are very blessed to have Terry with us today. I know we got the brief introduction as Daniel sent us a few of your notes on your background as well. And I just wanted to unpack that a little bit because you've had a great deal amount of success, far more than the average individual. Wow. From even back to playing Division I basketball, I saw that you played as well. So I want to just start this off by talk about that ride of like you're really just at the peak of your success or to what you think is, just a beautiful, happy life. And then all of a sudden to come down and just rebound, that constant rebound. Talk about that a little bit.
I mean, I have been very fortunate and I grew up with three, with two brothers. The three of us were, we were just all jocks, but our 5'8" mother was kind of the boss. Didn't matter how big, tall, strong we were, whatever mom said, that's kind of the way it went. And my parents instilled, I think, the importance of family in our lives. And I remember when my dad was sick, I mentioned, excuse me, and my youngest brother had a high school basketball game. And I was still living at home, but I had my own, I was working at Wendy's and all that. And I told him, my dad, I said, I'm not going to the game. I'm going to go work out. I haven't worked out in a few days. My dad's like, no, you're not. I'm like, what? I'm I'm 25 years old. I got my own job. I mean, I'm a man. You know, my dad's like, no, you don't understand. You know, I'm sick. Your brother needs you. You know, you need to be part of this family. You need to support him, care for him, love him, and be there. And my dad was right. And I didn't go work out, and I ended up going to the game. And I think that sort of paved the way for me to be able to, you know, if you look at my resume, my first 2 jobs are in business, but my passion was always law enforcement. I had a grandfather who was a Chicago police officer from 1924 to 1954. So was in Chicago during Prohibition when alcohol was outlawed in the United States, in the Great Depression in 20s and 30s. And when the gangs, you know, Al Capone and those guys were shooting up the town. And he was actually shot in the line of duty with his own gun. Wasn't a serious injury, but, you know, trauma medicine in 1935 really didn't exist. And my dad remembered the stories. My grandmother told her to knock on the door of, you know, Mrs. Tucker, grab your son, come with us. Your husband's been shot. So when I expressed interest in going down that path, my dad was like, oh, no. You're going to go to college. You're going to major in business. You're going to, you know, get out, get a great job, get married, 2.4 kids, you know, live in the suburbs and live happily ever after. But that's what my dad wanted me to do. That wasn't my passion. And so I had a choice when I graduated. I could blaze my own trail, or out of love and respect for my father, I could do what he wanted me to do. And that's what I did. And so, you know, my parents made it easy for me to make these transitions in life. And I just took what they taught me and made it happen.
And that's something we talked just recently about on the last episode, is that your parents can be a big factor in how you do certain things, how you process information, how you react to certain situations. We've talked about that for the last couple of weeks. Actually, we had a guest who brought up a point of saying that window between, I think he said up to like age 6, is a very critical window for children. And even those next teen years, whatever your parents are instilling in you, that's something you're going to very much cherish and bring forward, regardless, good, bad, neutral, however you want to see it.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. You know, I mean, and I think if you're smart, you know, you take the best of both worlds. You take what your parents taught you on the good side and you apply it to your kids, and the things that you didn't like, or, you know, you didn't think were very good, you don't apply it. And my wife and I certainly tried to do that with our daughter. You know, unfortunately or fortunately, my daughter got my height. I mean, she's 6'2" and actually went to the Air Force Academy to play basketball. So, you know, great experience for her. Probably wouldn't have gone there had she not had basketball as, you know, sort of the thing that opened the door, but got an unbelievable great education, and it is doing great now.
Yeah. And that's amazing. Just to be able to, now this is a little bit off topic, but, I picture you, just even though we just met, I already can kind of feel that you very much appreciate any level of success or any greatness in your life. There's a lot of times that people will have things happen to them, and it's okay to feel like you've put it into the work and you deserve something, you know, but to be able to really appreciate something, to really appreciate either a moment or an event that happened, I can feel that energy from you, that you truly do appreciate a lot of little things that people won't necessarily appreciate as much. So how has that kind of played a role in how you view the world? Just really appreciating something, just little things.
Yeah, and it is the little things, you know. And my daughter got married in October, and I gave a little bit of a speech, and I talked about, you know, the day she was born. She was born in March, you know, and I remember sitting on the couch with her in one hand and the clicker in the other, watching March Madness, you know, thinking, you know, it doesn't get any better than this. But then it did, you know, and I got to give her baths and teach her, you know, college fight songs and lay down with her at night and read her books. And I didn't think it got any better than that, but it did, you know, and it really kept, you know, escalating. And, you know, when she was in middle school, she was diagnosed with all these learning disabilities and things like that. And to be a father and to sit in, you know, the Air Force Academy, Falcon Stadium, you know, on a warm May day, and watch my daughter get a diploma, walk across the stage and shake hands with the President of the United States, I'm like, it doesn't get any better than this. So, you know, you're right. You do, you know, all the power, the money, the influence that we all seem to strive for, none of that really matters in life. I mean, at the end of your life, can't take it with you. So, I mean, really the only thing that matters is the love that you have in your heart. And, I know, you're kind of a macho guys and stuff, we don't talk about love, but love is an incredibly powerful thing. And when I was growing up, the guy I idolized a lot was a man by the name of John Wooden, who coached at UCLA back in the 70s and 80s, won 7 national championships in basketball and stuff like that. And I remember, as much as he's noted for his coaching, he's noted for his pyramid of success. And as much as he cared about his players on the court, he cared about them more off the court. What kind of men were they going to be? What kind of fathers? What kind of husbands? What kind of leaders in business and industry were they going to be? And I remember listening to him talk about, he was being, there was an interview with a reporter, and the reporter said to him, what's the most important thing that people should take away from this interview? What's the most important thing they should learn? And literally, I'm sitting there, I got a pad and paper, I'm taking notes. I'm like, come on, coach, give me some good X's and O's and stuff, And he says, the most important thing that anybody should have in life is love. It's the most important. And I'm like, no, coach, come on, give me some good basketball stuff. But he was right. Whether you love your family, you love your job, you love your purpose, you love whatever it is, love is the most important thing that we give each other and that we certainly give to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And you see, even from the greatest players like Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, some of those people even had to have somebody on their side when they were younger to love them and teach them how to be a man, to be a great basketball boxer, all that. So it always going to take love. Love makes the world go around. So definitely.
It really does. I can tell you Michael Jordan's story if you like.
Yeah, definitely.
So I got to play against him in college. And so
he busted y'all, huh?
They used to have this tournament called the North-South Doubleheader. And they took 2 teams from North Carolina, which were North Carolina State, 2 teams from South Carolina, which was my little dinky school, the Citadel, and Furman, and we would play in the Charlotte Coliseum. So Friday night, this is 1982. You guys weren't even an apple in your parents' eye at that point in time. 1982, Michael Jordan's freshman year. Friday night, get to play against them. Who won the national championship in 1982? North Carolina.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. So Saturday night, I get to play against Jim Valvano and the North Carolina State team, who won the national championship in 1983. North Carolina.
They won back-to-back, didn't
they? So in the course of a weekend, I get to play against 2 national championship teams. Wow. So fast forward 15, 18 years. My youngest brother, the one who pitched at Notre Dame, is a basketball coach at Loyola Academy in Chicago. He's coaching Michael Jordan's 2 sons. And he said, I'm at practice one day, and I'm teaching the kids a play, and I look up, and nobody's paying attention to me. And he looks over to where the kids are looking, and Jordan had come into the gym as a parent. He was just there to pick up his kids, and take them home after practice. Yeah. So my brother looks at him and says, hey, Michael, you're a little bit of a distraction. Would you mind stepping out in the hall till practice is over? And Jordan and his wife were incredibly gracious people. He was like, yeah, sorry, coach. I didn't mean to be a distraction. I'll wait outside until practice. So my brother thought later, I'm probably the only coach in the history of basketball that ever kicked Michael Jordan out of practice.
I wouldn't have been that brave, bro. I wouldn't have been that brave.
I would have been distracted too, honestly.
So, Mike, do you want to come coach? Please come coach.
Yeah. But I think it goes back to Jordan's parents, like we were just talking about. They set a good example for him. He and his wife set a good example for his sons. He never tried to helicopter coach. He never tried to tell my brother what to do or anything like that. He came to all the games. He supported his sons. He did what every good father does. And, my brother got to go to his house. All the parents would have a night where they would do the team meal before the game. And so they would just rotate that. And when it was the Jordan's turn, everybody got to go to the compound and they had a catered meal in the indoor gym and all that kind of stuff. So my brothers got to be at Michael Jordan's home and that. So, just good down to earth people that Guy happens to be the greatest basketball player that ever lived.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Definitely. Wow.
Oh my
That's a
gosh.
story right there. To even
Yeah,
come in contact with I think the most best athletic person I ever seen. So
that man is
they say
he's
there's a
a
walking aura around him.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
And
you have that's amazing though. Like I always wonder like what drives you to make you like all these things you overcame in your life? Like what is that number one thing that drives you? Like
I guess I'll go back to basketball. I guess more generally, team sports. Team sports teaches us to be part of something that's bigger than us. And
mm,
you know that if you don't do your job on a team, not only do you let yourself down, but you let your fellow teammates down, your coaches down, your fans down, etc. And if you think about it, the biggest team game that we all play is this game of life. And I am on a clinical trial drug now for the tumors that I have in my lungs. And it's probably not going to save my life, but it very well may save somebody's life 5 years from now or 10 years from now with all the data that the doctors are gleaning from my blood tests, my scans, and things like that. And I may not even be around when that happens. But for me, that's part of being, part of something that's bigger than yourself. And when you look at that, and especially we all get down, we all get depressed and things like that. And I'm often asked, what when that happens, what do you do? Like you stop looking inward and you start looking outward. You start looking for somebody to help. And if you can help somebody else, that darkness, that ugliness, that depression, and I'm not talking about people that are clinically depressed that need medication. I'm talking about the general, we get down from time to time. That, when you start putting yourself out there to help other people, you don't feel as bad. You actually start feeling good. So, whenever people get into that situation, I always tell them, look outward. Don't look inward. Get out there and try to help some people that maybe you wouldn't help otherwise.
yeah, I was in sports too as well, and I know like it definitely teaches you a lot of things about life in general. So like I probably wouldn't even be this conscious if I went to go through all these sports I played growing up. So definitely I agree with that.
yeah, I mean, I same way over here. I played sports all growing up since I was 4 years old, and you not realizing it now looking back, that's where you do get your sense of if you develop leadership skills, if you develop just those team building skills and the collaborative skills and the um to your guys' point even of just being able to care for something that is so much bigger than you. And now looking back, it makes a lot of sense being that I was so involved in those things. It makes sense why I have the certain goals and aspirations that that I have today. Um, wow, that's incredible. I never put those two puzzle pieces together until you guys just said something.
Definitely. Yeah.
And another thing with that is because a lot back to the point of getting down, a lot of people, like you said, we all experience our not so good days. How have you kind of guided people through, because some people, I don't want to say are more apt to have bad days, but some people, their mindset is kind of filled with negativity, so naturally they're going to attract those certain types of thoughts. They're going to have more bad days. How does somebody um, start to develop the skill of being able to turn that mindset?
I guess the way I look at it is, we're all going to experience pain in our lives. And for me, it doesn't have to be cancer pain or even an illness. You could flunk a test at school or break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or not get the promotion at work that you think you deserve. Pain is inevitable. But suffering on the other hand, suffering's optional. Suffering's what you do with that pain. Do you take that pain and use it to make you a stronger and more determined individual? Or do you wallow in it, feel sorry for yourself, and want other people to feel sorry for you? Now, you guys are looking at me right now. There's no S on my chest. I do not have a cape. I had when I go through my cancer treatment, I have bad days. I cry, I get down, I feel sorry for myself. And when I do, I think of two stories. One was there was a professor at Johns Hopkins University out on the East Coast in the 1950s who did a very simple experiment with rats. Trust me, this is going somewhere. I promise. You know,
I just made one up just last show about the mice.
mice. Okay, these are rats, not mice, but these are rats. Same kind of thing, the same family. So it was a very simple experiment. He took rats and he put them in a tank of water that was over their head, and he wanted to see how long the rats would tread water. And the average rat treaded water for about 15 minutes. And just as the rat was getting ready to sink and drown, he reached in, grabbed it, pulled it out, dried it off, let it rest for a while. And then he put that same rat back in that exact same tank of water. And the second time around, those rats treaded water on average for 60 hours. Wow. Now think about that. 15 minutes. That's all I can do. I'm done. I'm at the end of my rope. I'm going to die. Second time around, 60 hours, which says to me two things. One, the importance of hope in our lives. We have to have hope. We have to believe that what we're doing is going to lead us to a better life, or, you know, whatever path we're on is going to make us better down the road. That's number one. And number two, just how much more our physical bodies can handle than we ever thought that they could. I mean, I had my left foot amputated in 2018. I had my left leg amputated in 2020. And, you know, people look at that and they say to me, you know, Terry, I could never do what you did. I could never go through that. And I don't like to be a smart aleck, but a lot of times I am. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You can't, because you've already decided in your mind that you can't do this. Why would you do that? And so the second story that I think about is I have a friend who's a former Navy SEAL, and the SEALs talk about their 40% rule. I don't know if you guys have read David Goggins' book, but if you haven't, you ought to. It's
Can't Hurt Me.
Great book. But they talk about, you know, if they're at the end of their rope, and these are some of the toughest men in the world, and they're like, you know what? When you're at the end of your rope, you're only at 40% of your maximum. You still have another 60% left to give to yourself. So I would say, I guess a long-winded answer to your question is, when you get into those situations, and we all do, it's normal to get down. It's normal to get depressed. But when you get there, just think about those stories. Think about, I just got to get up and I got to put one foot in front of the other. I just have to keep moving forward. And sometimes, you know, we talk about winning the day. Sometimes winning the day is just winning this much. And if you have this much grit in your life, you'll be so much further along than all those people who never start to chase their dreams.
Yeah.
That's crucial.
It's definitely in the mind. Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely in the mind. I would say, because I've heard plenty of stories of people going through the same thing, getting told certain things by doctors, and then the doctors being wrong on the end of that stick. So like, it's all, and it was just because of that mindset thing, I believe, too, as well. So that plays a big factor, and probably the number one factor.
I think it does. And, you know, one of the things that I played high school basketball in Chicago with Isaiah Thomas. I don't know if you guys.
Wow, yes, I'm from the Chicago area.
Okay, so Isaiah Thomas and I played in the same conference. We used to sit together at the all-conference banquet and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And he went to Indiana, and, you know, Bobby Knight was the, you know, great coach at Indiana, and Knight had this philosophy. He said, mental is to Bobby physical,
was tough.
as 4 is to 1.
Yeah.
Now think about it. Here's this guy, you know, coaching these elite athletes to do stuff with their bodies. But what he's really saying is, all this body stuff, that's only 1. The mental part is 4. 4 is going to get you to success. This one part, it'll get you there. But if you don't have the mental part, you're not going to make it.
Facts. Yes. Bobby Knight was tough, definitely.
And I love that message about just continuing to push forward. I mean, there's so many times where you feel like, you know, certain people we just on the last episode, we were talking about everybody has their different traumas. Everybody lives a different type of trauma, or things that we go through in life. But it's it comes down to, as you guys were saying, it's about the mindset. How are you going to attack that situation? Are you going to let the situation control you, or are you going to take control of the situation as best as you possibly can? There's a saying that I've heard for a couple years now, and it says, if you don't take the reins on your life, somebody else will take those reins for you. And hearing that, I'm also a little bit of a control freak, so there's that kind of sprinkled in there as well. But to me, I can't imagine giving up, especially on a dream, a vision, a goal of mine. The thought of giving up makes me sick to my stomach. But that doesn't mean that, to your point, doesn't mean I don't have bad days. It doesn't mean that I'm some perfect human being. And that's something we preach all the time, is just because somebody might be able to kind of cope with things a little bit better doesn't mean that they're not still going through something. And I want that to be very transparent with our listeners, is that, look, we're all going through something. Life isn't just, pictures and butterflies and white picket fences. Like, you're going to go through stuff in life, but it's all going to come down to, what does this look like up here, and how are you going to adapt?
Yeah. And I definitely haven't been through things like Terry been through in his life,
No.
but my biggest adversity, like when I turned 17, well, I was turning 18 in high school, I tore my ACL in football, and I wasn't able to play football because I've been playing football since I was 4 years old. So, like, I wasn't able to play football my last year in high school, and it was just devastating. I just couldn't take it, and I had a good coach by my side, so he helped me like with the mindset of things, get through it. Because I didn't have the mindset the first time after surgery. Like, I had to get a second surgery because I didn't really have that mindset at that young age to drive to like push. Because the ACL, that's like a different type of injury than breaking something. So, like, yeah, it's definitely in the mind, definitely.
Mm. Daniel, I saw you had something. I know you were trying to jump in.
No, I lost it completely. My bad.
No, it's all good. But Terry, I know your biggest thing,
Kind of
or one of your
froze.
biggest things, along with your book, is this idea of motivational check. Can you kind of break that down for our viewers?
Sure. So motivational check was something that, people were suggesting. I talk a lot about what has gotten me through cancer, and I talk about my 3 F's: faith, family, and friends. I have a very deep faith in God. And, I remember people were kind of telling me, it's like, hey, you got to start a blog. And, there's an old joke that says, when we talk to God, it's called prayer. When God talks to us, it's called schizophrenia. So, God never talked to me. God never, but literally, I would sort of lay in bed. I had my foot amputated. I was kind of at a crossroads, really didn't know where I was going. And I was like, what do you want? Where are we going? And people started to be like, hey, you should start a blog. You should. And I was totally resistant. I'm like, I'm old. I can barely turn my cell phone on in the morning. What do you mean start a blog? How do I do this? But, I think I'm smart enough to realize that when enough different people start saying something, that I ought to perk up, that I ought to think about, well, maybe there's something to this. And it was the same thing about writing a book. You ought to write a book. No, I'm not right. But enough people said it that it got to a point where, well, maybe I ought to look at it. And so I was like, okay, I'll start a blog. My initial blog was 4 pages long. Took me 4 months. Swear to God. Took me 4 months to put 4 pages together. I had no idea what I was doing. I do one thing. I'm like, I don't know what that means. So I have to go research it, come back, do one thing. My 25-year-old daughter probably could have done it in 15 minutes. But for me, it was like 4 months. But, it's like, now what do I call it? And when I was in the police academy, we had a defensive tactics instructor that gave us the phrase motivational check. And it basically meant that if you were at the end of your rope, and we did some pretty crazy things in the academy, we ran a marathon, we did all kinds of stuff, that if you didn't think you could go on, you could just yell out, motivational check. And the rest of us would respond with an 84. We were the 84th recruit class, just to let the person know that, hey, you're not alone. We're going to get through this together. Hang in there, and we'll all cross that finish line, not just one of us and stuff like that. So that's really where motivational check came about. And then every day I put up a thought for the day. And I also put a question with it to kind of, well, how could you use this in your life? How could you apply this to your life? On Mondays, I put up the Monday morning motivational message, which is a video or a story that's a little bit longer. But I understand people's time is at a premium. So I always say, if you need a quick hit of inspiration or motivation, go to motivationalcheck.com, get that inspiration, and then get on with your life. So that's pretty much how Motivational Check came to be.
And I like that because that's something that we'll do with each other indirectly is between us three is that we'll kind of when things aren't going exactly to maybe how somebody planned or we got a little hiccup in the road, somebody always chimes in and kind of pitches the bright side or what this could lead to, or okay, here's a reminder of where we're headed to, like this is just a stepping stone in the right direction. And I love that idea of that pick me up. You need people in your corner, whether it's 1 or 10, obviously the more the merrier, but people in your corner that when things, not that somebody has to give you, some huge long lecture about your life. It's just, hey, right now I just need a little like reminder, like, hey, you got this, just a motivational check. So I think that a great thing, along with your going to your site, is for our viewers out there, try to help your friends and your family, give them an opportunity to have motivational checks with each other, just to, keep picking people up. It's not easy out in the world, as you could say. Obviously, whatever your situation is, it can be a lot worse. Not only from the stories that you've heard from all of our guests, but life can get much worse than you might think. So just remember that you'll get through it. And again, just get somebody you can do a motivational check with. I mean, I love that. I don't know what your guys' take on it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, I go through a lot of things here. Like, I got 5 kids, and it's just a lot of things going on in my life. And these two guys definitely has been like that two people in my life that basically will make things better. Like even when I got like negativity going on in my own household or anywhere. So like these two guys definitely been. I definitely agree with Caleb on that.
I mean, it's about finding a team. Like the right people to be around. Like you were saying earlier, like people that you would think of as brothers. Like and that's that. In your case, that's how it was. You guys were a brotherhood in the academy. I'm guessing.
We were brother and sisterhood,
And sisterhood.
I think you guys kind of get it on. I didn't know any of you. If I didn't know Daniel, but I knew the 5 people that Daniel hung around with the most, I could probably tell you a lot about Daniel without ever meeting him. And I always try to, especially for young people, it's like if there are people in your life that don't have your best interest in mind, that don't care about you, that don't uplift you, get them out of your life. Get those people out of your life and surround yourself with people that care about you, that have your best interest in mind. In all honesty, that are willing to tell you the truth, even if that truth might sacrifice the relationship. I want people in my life who are like, hey, Terry, you're really kind of messing this up. But what do? As soon as that person says that, we're like, oh, no, no, you're not my friend anymore. Oh, trust me, they are your friend because they're willing to tell you the truth at the expense of potentially sacrificing the friendship that you have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's you need people to give you that reality check. Like I don't want you to tell me because at the end of the day, the person who is telling you what you might not want to hear but you need to hear truly does have your best interest. Because we're not perfect human beings. That's the reality. And being someone, again, I'm a very stubborn person. So when I know someone is like coming to me directly and it's somebody I know that I trust and they're telling me, hey, look, like I don't think you're making the right move on this, it's up to me then on that situation to take the responsibility and be an actual to be an actual adult about it and say, okay, why is this person coming to me that I trust? They're not coming at me viciously, because if they were coming at me viciously, they wouldn't be in my circle to begin with, because I vetted my people.
Right.
As you said, the people, if you take those steps to remove those negative energies outside of your circle, then when things do happen and people are coming to you with certain things, you can already trust that person because you've already done the vetting previously.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with that too, man. Like it's been people in my life that's been good or bad. They don't have bad intentions, but it's just the fact that the negativity things, like sometimes they're not doing it on purpose. It's a lack of information. Like they don't know better. Like they don't know the things that you know. So that's really what it is. Sometimes it's a lack of information.
Mm, yeah, that's true. And I wanted to also touch on Terry. I know you've. I don't like to say anyone's perfect at anything, but you've kind of mastered this the concept of being able to bounce back, being able to keep a positive mindset. Um, kind of, we always tell people like the journey to this point is there's a lot of things that come in the journey, and it's a timing thing. It's a very big patience thing. So I know this probably the mindset didn't happen overnight. Kind of what was that transition like from kind of discovering this new mentality of like just sheer positivity?
Yeah, and I mean, like I said before, I come on podcasts and I talk about positivity and motivation. I have bad days, and I just want people to understand that I am not always smiling and things are great. And I guess one of the things that I've learned over especially these last 10 years with battling cancer, is what I like to call my four truths. And I think these are things that I call them sort of the bedrock of my soul. They're just a good place to build a good life off of. And I'll give them to you. I have them on a Post-it note sitting here on my desk. They're one sentence each. I see them multiple times during the day, so they constantly get reinforced when I'm sitting here. And I'll just break them down real quick a little bit. So the first one is, and we sort of talked about this already, you need to control your mind, or your mind is going to control you. And, I remember back when I was in high school, I had 3 knee surgeries. And when I went back playing, my mind was like, it was putting all this negativity, all this garbage in my thoughts. Like, you had 3 surgeries, you're probably a step slower, and college coaches aren't going to want to recruit you, to play at their school. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm still playing at an elite level, and coaches are still interested in talking to me about playing for their college. So I was like, no, I need to change the narrative. I need to flip that switch to something positive. And, I think you just have to recognize that you have these negative thoughts, and that you have to replace them when they come in there. But the problem with that is we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts that go through our brains every day, many of which we don't even recognize are there. So when those negative thoughts come in, you need to pay attention to them, and you need to flip that switch. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you need to embrace the pain and the difficulty that we all experience in life, and use that pain and difficulty to make you a stronger and more determined individual. I mean, we're conditioned. The brain is hardwired to avoid pain and discomfort and to seek pleasure. So to the brain, the status quo, the way things are right now, it's good. Don't mess with it. Keep things the way they are. But you guys know this. The only way you're going to grow, the only way you're going to get better, is if you step outside that comfort zone. And what happens is, people run from pain. They want to get away from it. I mean, a lot of people turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, they turn to bad behavior, and they're making bad decisions. What I'm saying with this truth is, just do the opposite. Instead of running from it, take it. Take the pain, flip it inside, burn it as fuel, use it as energy to make you a stronger and more determined individual. And one of the ways you can do that is every day, and I try to do this every single day, do one thing, it doesn't have to be a big thing, that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you nervous, that scares you, that's potentially embarrassing. Like, I hate to go to the dentist. The other day I picked up the phone, I'm like, okay, I made my 6-month appointment. Ugh. It was like, I didn't want to do that. I mean, when I use my prosthetic leg, it's hard, it's difficult. I don't really want to do that today, but I'm going to do it, and things like that. So just do one small thing. So when the big things in life hit, and they hit all of us, you lose somebody close to you, you're living out of your car, you've lost your job, whatever it is, you'll be so much more resilient to handle those big things. So that's number 2. Number 3 is kind of a legacy truth. And it's this: what you leave behind is what you weave in the hearts of other people. And that's really just getting people to think about the end game of their life. And when I went to, when I found out I was going to have my leg amputated and I had these tumors in my lungs, I went with my wife to the mortuary, to the cemetery, and to the church, and I planned my funeral. And like I said, I come on these podcasts and I talk about motivation and keep going. And so I got some brushback from people. They were like, don't you think that's kind of defeatist? And I was like, well, last time I checked, I think we're all going to die. I don't think anybody's working on a cure for life right now.
Yeah.
So, it's like, yeah, we're all going to die, but we're not all going to really live. And years ago, I heard a Native American Blackfoot proverb that went like this: when you were born, you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. That's what I want.
Good,
and I think the important words are there: live your life. Live your life so that the world cries and you rejoice. So that's number 3. And then number 4, pretty self-explanatory. As long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. I look at it this way: my pain is going to end someday. It may end through surgery. It may end through medication. Quite frankly, it may end when I die. But if I quit, if I give up, if I give in to pain, then pain is always going to be a part of my life.
Yeah. And one thing I took out of there, what you said, like you used that thing that pain that you had to go through to drive you, like to just push you, like to do. And I have done that before, and I noticed that was one of the most healthiest parts of my life. I was probably like 22, 23 years old, probably. I was in the healthiest shape I was, and I was using that fuel from like tearing my ACL, going through the things I had to at my senior year and so on after high school and stuff. Like I used all that pain, and it drove me to like get better in shape and be in the best shape I've ever been. Definitely. So I definitely see that.
Yeah, and I think go ahead.
I was just gonna say about the what you leave behind is what you weave into others' hearts. That really hit me because there's like we were talking a couple episodes back about how like time is such a limited aspect, and you don't really get to see what's on the other side of the hourglass. As if the sand was falling, you don't get to see the top. And I guess that really puts a perspective into people and into how. Oh, I think something just went off. But it gives it that perspective on how you don't even. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Something just went off.
It's all good. But just a quick tip on, or not tip, a quick insight on what I was picking up on is the part about living your life, and not to say kind of like how they do when you're younger, like, oh, live your life, like more so. I like to speak
Not
on kind of
YOLO.
right. We're not talking about that. It's more like a macro scale. Like a lot of people go through life, they don't find their purpose, they don't find their why, they never truly live for what they really truly desire or what will truly fulfill them. And we talked about this right before the show about it's not going to be the money, the cars, the nice house, the XYZ of materialistic items or whatever the case may be. Yes, can having a nice lifestyle be great? That's fantastic. But when it all comes down to it and you're looking at the end of your time, the last thing you're probably going to be thinking about is how much money that you have in the account versus all the people that you touched, the purpose that you provided to the world. And again, when you said to enter in the world and you're crying and then to exit the world and make the world cry, I think that just goes to show how involved can you be in your purpose? How much can you impact the world in a positive way? Sorry, Daniel, go ahead, finish what you were saying.
No, I'm just listening now. But basically, I was just gonna say that it doesn't. People are not aware of the situation that they're in. I guess you guys tied that into there.
Yeah.
It's
I think people live, Kaleb, you said, they kind of live a casual life and they never try to find their purpose. And in living a casual life, their dreams, their goals, their ambitions become a casualty of that kind of unplanned living. And, being a police officer and certainly a number of years I've had cancer, I've had the opportunity to see a lot of people die. And I'm going to make a huge generalization here, but the people who seem to die what I guess we would call, peaceful deaths are the people that seem to have done something with their life. They and I'm not talking about, riches or fame or power or influence, but actually found their purpose and lived it. Whereas the people who go kicking and screaming, I want another month, I want another year, whatever it is, those seem to be the people who never did anything with their life. They lived that sort of casual life. I'll get to it when I get to it. And like you say, you never get to see the hourglass. You never know how much time you have left. And when it comes to the end of your life, I mean, it's the end of your life. That's it. There's no do-overs. There's no, I'll tag out and somebody else can come in. I mean, that's not the way it works. When it's over, it's over. And so you better make sure that while you're here, you have a doggone good time and you make a difference.
I like that. I might have to use that. I might have to use that. But it's true. I mean, I have a very big issue with complacency, because not to say that I think everybody has a certain way that they want to live their lives, and it doesn't matter to me whether 50 grand a year is enough for you or 250 grand. It doesn't matter to me in that sense, but the sense of never wanting to improve, never wanting to better yourself, never wanting to expand or be open to the thought of there being more to your mind or more to the world that you may think. That to me gets to me, and it's hard for me to surround myself around those people, because that energy, I mean, and you guys probably will definitely understand this. Nobody knows when their due date is, as you guys just said. And so why waste another 24 hours that you've been blessed on this earth doing nothing that's going to prosper you forward, make you feel whole, whether it's spending time with family. Because I'm the same way. If it comes down to spending time with family, I used to be the type a couple of years ago where I was like, no, I got to work, I can't go over for dinner or whatever. And then it wasn't until like the last year or so where I was like, okay, yes, work needs to happen, but let me just be present in this moment, because I know that this moment could very well never happen again. And I know you guys can probably touch on that as well, just being present.
Yeah, that definitely is true, because as you know, we're trying to pursue the entrepreneur world. Like being present with my kids and their life and watching them grow and teaching them about life is a big thing that I care about. So that's why I'm trying to get out of the work field, having to work 8, 10, 12 hours a day and spend more time with them, because I mean, everything I do for them, but I got to realize sometimes that I got to have a balance, because sometimes even the entrepreneur world will take me away from spending time with them and teaching them the things they need to know about life. So I definitely.
Yeah, it's about finding what truly means something to you in this life. And a lot of people go through life thinking that it's something that has been projected onto them through the internet, through social media. A lot of ideas of success and happiness and fulfillment are projected onto our society. And now you get a society where most people don't know what truly would fulfill them. They think it's one thing, they achieve it, and they're still not fulfilled because they've never done that self-reflection, the deep kind of looking into yourself and what fills me. Like for me, and I know the guys feel this too, when I see someone has changed their life just through mindset, when I can see like, okay, this is where we started, and now like we've helped each other get to this level, I've seen a growth through somebody, that to me fills me more than any dollar amount. We just talked about this in the last episode too. It just fills you so much. But that's because I've taken the time to realize what fills me in my life. And if you can't depict that, it's hard to really live your life. You know what I mean? It's not about again, like Will said, not YOLO.
Right. And I feel like with that is that, I guess, with the life that we're in right now, everything is so attainable, or like you can get it on your phone, that everybody thinks that what they really want is those other things, but they never, like you said, they never had that time within themselves to know what truly they desire. Instead, they desire other people's desires or other people's thoughts, because they're just so surrounded by that other environment and not really thinking of within. Like Taylor was saying, it's all starts inside and then outside.
Yeah, it really does. And if you think about, and my thought just totally went out of my head, guys. See, that's what happens when you get old. You know, like they come in and they go out. What was it? Forget it. All right, sorry, I lost it.
You're good. It happens. Trust me, it happens.
Yeah, and my kids, like, they're definitely my drive and everything. They're my why. If everybody wanted to know, like, so, like, I know spending time and making sure they're safe is my most important thing, especially with everything what's going on in the world right now. Like, that's the most important thing to me is being with them and watching them grow. Definitely.
Mm. And something that Terry had touched on, and I want us to expand on it as well, is the idea of and that the concept of being able to control your mind, to control your thoughts. And it's not to say that. So I'll just give my 2 cents real quick. That in my opinion, controlling your mind isn't necessarily about never having a negative thought. It's about when those thoughts come in, like Terry had said, it's about being able to recognize those, being able to change that. But I want to hear your guys' takes on that as well, about just being able to really control how your mind processes information.
Well, I guess it's just, when you catch yourself thinking something, like you said, thinking something negative, it's like, that your brain is programmed for safety, like Terry was saying earlier. It's programmed to stay away from those situations, but at the same time, staying away from those situations is negative, because I believe that you start learning once you start understanding that it is dangerous, or you have to be careful doing something. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I feel like controlling your mind, as in paying attention to what you think or what you're doing, is the sense, because if not, then the little robot that is your subconscious is going to control it your whole life.
Yeah, definitely. Like that little second thought. Like they say, you got the two people on your shoulders. You seen the cartoons. Like you got that one bad negativity, the devil looking thing. Then you got the angel on the other hand. Like, and it's all about what you make out of that. Like in the end, you're supposed to listen to that right side, definitely, and turn a negative into a positive. Definitely, that's what it's always about.
Hmm.
And life is about choices, and we are the product of the choices that we make. And if you make bad choices, you're going to have a bad life. If you make good choices, you're going to have a better life. And that seems so
Common
easy
sense.
to understand, but for a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's like, well, I smoked 2 packs a day for 40 years and I got lung cancer. I don't understand why.
Right.
Really? I do.
Right.
I mean, I drank myself, all kinds of booze at night, and now I've got cirrhosis of the liver, and I don't understand why. I
Right.
do. I mean, it just seems that, life is about choices, and it's about which hand you grab. Do you grab the hand of positivity, or do you grab the handle of negativity? And if you grab the negativity handle, then negative things are going to happen. If you can see something in your mind's eye, if you can see yourself, being an NBA player, if you can see yourself, running a corporation or whatever it ends up being, then that's a possibility. If you can't see it, if it's not in here, if you can't see yourself doing that, it's never going to happen. You have to get it in here first before it actually manifests itself in a physical world, in a physical way.
Mm. And I that's a huge, because like a lot of ancients would say, like, the when it says your heart, like it's really talking about your mind. Definitely, like that's really that's talking about. Your heart is controlled by your mind, so that's definitely.
Yeah, it's mind heart correlation. It's a study done by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've heard of it. It's like
Yeah.
whatever you desire deeply with your mind and you correlate that with your heart actually becomes a truth. It's called, the book is called Becoming Supernatural.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Wow. That I did not know. That's incredible. And I mean, because we talk about it not on such a scientific matter, but we talk about it as vision. We've preached vision so many times. I mean, every single day that we're on the phone with each other, somebody always slips in something of like our vision, like just as like a reminder. But to me, like for me, I need that. I know I'm a very visual person, whether it's learning, whether it's remembering things, whatever the case may be. I'm a very visual person, so I've naturally had the the blessing of being able to visualize things from just even when I was a kid. Just I'm a very picture type person. So when it comes down to visualizing, for me, I need to visualize it every single day so I never forget what that lifestyle, with that the metric of success, the whatever the case may be. I need to continuously remind myself of this is what that looks like. And I need to envision that because I need to make my mind know this is going to be my reality soon. So I just love the idea of being able to visualize, because if you can't see it, to your point, you're not going to believe it. There's no way you'll be able to accomplish it because you have no idea what way that even looks like for yourself.
And I think that's why it's important. I told you, I have a post-it note here with my four truths on it, and I see those. And I always tell people, whatever you want, write it down. Don't type it out.
Yeah.
Write it
Yeah.
down on something and
Yeah.
put it places where you're going to see it, in your car, on your bathroom mirror, at your desk, wherever it is, because you'll that constant reminder, that constant reinforcement. This is what I'm going to be. This is someday, maybe not today, but someday that's what I'm going to be. And you're seeing that in your mind. When you see it in your mind, you can make it happen. You can't see it here, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, there's a study on that like this I don't know, doctors or scientists, they do where they says like something transform trans basically transports from your mind to like is it when you're writing it down, like it just transports better, like, and you see things a lot better, like, because it's like something about writing something down, man. It's very deep. I know what you're talking about, definitely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so to that, and Terry, I know you're giving our viewers a lot of tips and a lot of tricks. I hope that they're taking notes of this. So I know that you have a book, and we briefly talked about it, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. Can you break down for the viewers, kind of, and for us as well, a little bit more about your book?
Sure. So the book is called Sustainable Excellence: The 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. And it was really a book born out of two conversations that I had. One was with a former player that I had coached that had moved to Colorado, where my wife and I live. And we had dinner with her and her fiance. And I remember saying to her one day, I'm really excited that you're living close and I can watch you find and live your purpose. And she got real quiet for a while. She looked at me and she's like, well, coach, what do you think my purpose is? So I have no idea what your purpose is, but that's what your life should be about. Finding the reason you were put on the face of this earth and then living that reason. So that was one conversation. And then I had a young man reach out to me from college on social media, and he asked me what I thought were the most important things he should learn to not just be successful in his job or in business, but to be successful in life. And I didn't want to give him the, get up early, work hard, help others kind of thing. Not that those aren't important. They are
Right.
incredibly important. But I wanted to see if I could go deeper with him. And so I thought about it for a while. I started taking some notes. And then I had these 10 ideas, these 10 thoughts, these 10 principles. And then I sent them to him. And then I sort of stepped back and I was like, well, I got a life story that fits underneath this principle, or I know somebody whose life emulates that principle. So literally during the time I was healing after my leg amputation and before I started chemotherapy for the tumors in my lungs, I sat down at the computer every day, and instead of watching TV, I built stories, and they're real stories. They're not made up. I mean, these are actual people. They're actual stories that happen to people. And I just built stories underneath each of the principles. And that's how sustainable excellence came to be.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I'm definitely getting a copy myself. That's without a doubt. Is it on all platforms? Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all that great stuff?
Yeah, Apple
Good deal.
iBooks, and where you can get a book online, you can get Sustainable
Okay.
Excellence.
Good
Okay.
deal. We'll definitely link it for you guys in the description as always. I know the boys are gonna want a copy as well, so we're gonna get that. And you guys will definitely follow us as we start to read a lot of these books that we've had a lot of great authors, a lot of phenomenal authors on this podcast. And I mean, any way that we can not only help support but learn, this is a learning experience for all of us. Nobody has it figured out. Nobody is like the King Kong of the mindset academy or whatever you want to call it. It's we're all learning and doing this together. Do you guys have any major questions that you guys wanted to kick off as well?
Yeah. So one question that I always ask is like, what books do you recommend besides your book? You can definitely do a shameless plug, of course. But
I heard a shameless plug. That's fine. I'll tell you a book that I read last year that I absolutely loved, that I couldn't put down. I took 4 pages of notes reading it, was a book called Legacy. I don't know if any of you have heard of it.
I've heard of it.
It is an amazing book. It's written by a man by the name of James Kerr, and it's about the New Zealand national rugby team. Now, I don't know anything about rugby, but by all accounts, this team, they're called the All Blacks because their uniforms are all black and they are supposedly the most successful sports franchise in any sport of any country of all times. And one of the things that I found interesting in the book was, I would think, logic would say that if you're going to bring somebody onto your team, your professional team, that you want them to be technically competent in whatever position in rugby you're bringing them on for. And I'm sure that's partially true, but the 2 most important things that they hire for are, one, character. What kind of person are you? How do you treat the janitor? How do you treat your family? How do you treat the stray dog? I mean, you kicking the dog, or you giving it treats, whatever. I mean, what kind of person are you? And then number 2 is humility. And I know, we've all been through job interviews, and you kind of go into a job interview thinking, well, I better have all the answers. I better know, all the questions. I better be that person. And I mean, let's face it, we don't. And I think what they're saying with humility is, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be the I'm a know-it-all, because what they feel is, if you come to, I mean, individually, we don't know the answers, but collectively, we come together as a team, we are going to figure out the answer. So I would certainly recommend Legacy to you if you haven't read it. I am rereading right now Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. So kind of a Stoic philosophy book. A lot of the stuff we talk about on these podcasts and stuff like that, I mean, it's hundreds, thousands of years old. That we're not like, we think we're some genius. Oh, I came up with this. Well, guess what? Somebody 1,000 years ago came up with that too.
Right.
Just repackaging
You're right about that.
in a different way to make it work for us for right now. So I would say those are 2 books I'd certainly recommend to your audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah.
So you're from the Chicago area, right? So
Yes, sir.
What high school you say you went to?
I went to Marist High School.
Okay, Marist. I think I've heard of that. How far is that from?
So that's kind of 115th and Pulaski.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know where
it's
that's
a
at.
Catholic. When I went there, it was an all-guys school. It's now co-ed. My brother's been the principal for the last 23 years. Now he's the president of the school. So I blame him for it going co-ed. No, not really.
That's amazing.
Where did you go? Where'd you go?
You heard of Kankakee?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
You went? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my other brother he's in Barrington now on the north side.
Okay.
So he's the basketball coach at Barrington High School.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, for sure.
One more thing I did have is I know that besides the book, I know you have other things to offer to people as well. Can you just go ahead and fill our viewers in on how they can get a hold of you, how they can benefit from you? Because I know you have a lot of great things that you can offer them.
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me is through Motivational Check through my blog. You can leave me a note there. You can get access to my social media sites. You can buy the book there. You can get the thought for the day, see all the podcasts I've been on and stuff like that. So motivationalcheck.com will pretty much get to me. And any questions, I respond to everyone that I get. I get a bunch, but I think it's important if people are going to take the time to contact me that I'm going to put in the time to go ahead and contact them.
I love that.
That's amazing that you're doing that. Definitely.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story, and I think this is kind of important about why I do that. I mean, yeah, it's the right thing to do, but one of the people that recruited me, and this is going to sound like a war story, and I guess it kind of is, but was Coach K, was Mike Krzyzewski, and
wow.
when he was this was before he was Coach K. This is when he was at Army, when he was the coach at West Point, and he had me come. And he came to my house and, come play for me. And if I would have told you that at the beginning, you would have cut the interview right there. It's like, this guy's an idiot. College team. So. Yeah, Tucker. Yeah, he's out. Who's the next guy? Get somebody else in here. But so, I ended up saying no because I had 3 knee surgeries in high school and I wasn't sure that I could handle, my knee could handle West Point. So I said no. So my daughter was born and I was working nights as a policeman, and Duke played University of Connecticut, UConn, for the national championship. And so I recorded it. I was going to watch it after I got home. And so the next night I was off. So my daughter and I watched it. She was, I don't know, 3 or 4 or something like that. And Duke lost. Connecticut won. And at the very end of the movie, Krzyzewski's, there's a big hug with William Avery, one of his players. And so, we're watching the game. Okay, fine, put it away. Well, the next night after dinner, my daughter's like, Daddy, can we go watch the hug? I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Well, the hug, and she remembered the hug with Coach K and William Avery. So we went down and watched the hug. Well, this went on for like 2 weeks. So I thought, what the heck? So I sent Krzyzewski a note. I'm like, hey, Coach, remember me, but, let me tell you the story about my daughter and how the hug with William Avery really had an impact on her. And I sent the letter off, not thinking about it. 2 weeks later, I get a handwritten note from him, not typed out, just a handwritten about, hey, Terry, great to hear from you. Glad you're doing well. I get real close to my players. That was really a tough loss. Best of luck to you, Mike Krzyzewski. And I thought, that's class.
Yeah.
That is, he didn't have to write me back.
Yeah, Coach K is my favorite coach. Man.
Yeah, that's class. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to have class too. I want to, respond to people. I want to, if they take the time to reach out to me, I'm going to take the time to respond to them.
That's amazing. Wow.
That's crazy because I've had some similar with my mentor. He's given me so much value in my life just without hesitation. And now it's gotten me to be like, now when I get to know certain people or I make new connections, I'm like, how can I provide as much value as I possibly can to this person without even expecting anything in return?
Right.
And it's crazy when you look up to somebody and they present you kind of like this avatar of something that you want to be or that you strive to be or that you think is positive. I think that impact is just incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. We are marking about an hour and 10 minutes. Jeez. I know we can talk about these topics for days, but I want to respect Terry's time. So I first wanted to say thank you so much, Terry, for joining us. I know your time is precious. Time is valuable, of course. Is there anything that you want to leave with our viewers? Anything at all?
Yeah, I'll leave you with one more story. I've shut my mouth off for the last
hour. No.
Not continue, please.
So always been a big fan of Westerns growing up. My mom and dad used to let me stay up and watch Bonanza, Wild Wild West, and Gunsmoke and things like that. 1993, the movie Tombstone came out. You guys have probably all seen it.
I love that movie.
It stars Val Kilmer as a man by the name of John Doc Holliday. Kurt Russell
Doc Holliday,
as a man by the name of Wyatt
Bad
Earp.
man right there.
Yeah. And now Doc Holliday, for your audience who doesn't know this, Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp were 2 living, breathing human beings who walked on the face of the earth. They're not just made up characters for the movie. And Doc was called Doc because he was a dentist by trade, but pretty much Doc Holliday was a gunslinger and a card shark. And Wyatt had been a lawman his entire life. And these two men from entirely opposite backgrounds form this very close and very tight friendship. And at the end of the movie, Doc Holliday is dying at a hospital in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, which is about 3 hours from my home. The real Doc Holliday died at that hospital. He's buried in the Glenwood Springs cemetery. And Wyatt, at this point in his life, is destitute. He has no money, he has no job, he has no prospects for a job. So every day he comes to play cards with Doc, and the two men pass the time that way. And in this scene, almost at the very end of the movie, the two men are talking about what they want out of life. And Doc says, I was in love with my cousin when I was younger, but she joined a convent over the affair. But she's all that I ever wanted. And Doc looks at Wyatt and he says, what about you, Wyatt? What do you want? And Wyatt kind of nonchalantly says, I just want to lead a normal life. And Doc looks at him and says, there's no normal, there's just life. And get on with living yours. You guys, I know, we all know people that are sitting out there that are like, well, when this happens, I'll have a normal life. When that happens, I'll have a successful life. When this happens, I'll have a significant life. What I guess I'd like to leave your audience with is this. Don't wait. Don't wait for life to come to you. Get out there, find the reason you were put on the face of this earth, and live that reason. Because if you do, I'm going to promise you two things at the end of your life. One, you're going to be a whole lot happier. And two, you're going to have a whole lot more peace in your heart.
Yes, definitely.
Man.
Yeah, that was deep right there. So,
man, just if this episode didn't pump you up to just like really figure out what you want to do with your life and just really live your life to its fullest potential, living throughout your purpose and just living a life of fulfillment, man, I don't know how else to help you.
yeah, for sure.
Oh man, but as always, I know it's getting late for everybody, so as always, we'll leave Terry's link and his link to his book down in the show notes as well. As always, thank you so much, Terry, again for spending your time with us. I know time is the most valuable asset, so just thank you so much. We do appreciate it.
Well, thank you all for having me on. I always say it's good people like you that allow me to come on, and between our conversation, hopefully we're going to make a difference in somebody's life. And if we do, for me, today's been a good day.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you,
Yes.
guys.
And as always, we would love to have you on in the future as well. So obviously, please don't be a stranger. We won't as well. We'll definitely check in, and blessings to you and your family, and good health. I mean, I can't pray enough for you guys, your family, and just the near future as well.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, prayers mean a great deal to me, so thank you very much.
100%. So, guys, reach out to Terry, please. I mean, we're giving you guys top tier individuals over here. I mean, it doesn't, honestly, if you look back at all of our episodes every single week, man, we're just bringing somebody who's so monumental. So please reach out, use the resources, connect with our guests, man. I mean, these are the people you want to be talking to. So thank you again for everybody who tuned in tonight. This obviously will be dropped on all episode or platforms as well, but we love you guys so much. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week.